Yeah, okay. I think I can start.
Okay, hello and welcome to my talk. I'm glad to see you here. It's an honor to talk at NDC, second time in a row. I was here last year as well. I was talking about HoloLenses. I don't know if you've seen me last year here as well. So this time I'm going to talk about augmented reality in general, meaning you probably have seen augmented reality talks before, probably like even 10 years ago or something like that. And you might be wondering why am I bringing yet another general augmented reality talk, but you'll see in a while. So this is not going to be about any particular piece of hardware or software that we want to jump onto right now, but rather about the whole landscape of augmented reality as we have it right now. I'm Rafał Legiędź. I come from Poland. You can find me on Twitter at Rafek. I work for a consultancy company called SolidBrain. And for nearly 2 years now, I'm focused on delivering mixed reality experiences, meaning augmented reality mainly, using HoloLenses from Microsoft. And also, I'm a Microsoft MVP. Microsoft awarded me that because of my mixed reality community engagement, I would say. And also, I'm a conference organizer. I organize a conference called DevCon for several years now. That's in Krakow, Poland. Feel free to come. It's every September. So, the big question, why? Why do we need yet another augmented reality talk? So this talk is, well, it's very opinionated. It's based on my, well, limited experience because I'm in that subject for the last 2 years. But I've seen kind of a lot, and I talked to many developers, and I got asked many questions. That's because I was talking about augmented reality for the last 2 years pretty extensively. Last year, 17 conferences. The year before, around 15. So I've been here and there, and I kept getting lots of questions from developers, which was pretty interesting because, well, I kind of thought that, well, developers are kind of tech savvy and they know what's going on there in our industry, what are the latest and greatest technologies around that we might start embracing. But apparently, with augmented reality, there were still unanswered questions for many people. So I brought together many of those questions and the whole story about augmented reality and created a talk out of it so that I can answer many things with that talk. So this is why. And this talk is basically about how we get to the point where we are right now with augmented reality, where we are actually right now and where we're headed. So let's start with the basics. So what is augmented reality? You probably already know that, but I just had to do it just to make sure everyone is on the same page. So augmented reality is kind of a piece of the Metaverse, which is this wonderful parallel virtual world, which is a sum of all virtual realities, augmented realities, and the internet. So yeah, where we can have our parallel lives. But more specifically, in that metaverse, there's this virtuality continuum where we have, on one hand, a physical reality, full reality, which is on the right or left when you're looking at it. And on the other hand, here we have full virtual reality. And augmented reality lays somewhere here, near the physical reality. That's because whenever the user uses augmented reality experience, he's not cut off from the physical world. He's still fully aware that he's where he is. He's fully aware of his environment, right? But his vision is enhanced with some digital content. And that's kind of a definition of augmented reality. It's enhancing our usual vision, but we'll see later that it's not only that, with digital content. You might find some other definitions of augmented reality out there, meaning, for example, mediated reality that was coined by Steve Mann some time ago, meaning that augmented reality, by definition, augmenting something means adding something on top of something, right? But as we will see, and there are hardware pieces out there that do this kind of stuff, is that we can also remove things from our experience, from our senses. We can block our senses from receiving some stuff. So this is then mediated reality because we are mediating between our body or our senses and the environment. And this is called mediating reality. And to give you an example, for example, it's this brand killer device which removes every brand from whatever you see. Just imagine what kind of nightmare that might be in the future for all the consumer-targeted companies, right? That they might know that you can basically cut off every single label from your vision. So this is happening. And as I mentioned, augmented reality or mediated reality is not only our vision. It's where we are augmenting reality, we're not augmenting our vision, it's also about enhancing our other senses like hearing, tasting, touching, etc. So to give you an example, the simplest one and the one that you might probably all know already are all those fancy headphones like Bose or Sony, right? You can put your headphones on and, for example, turn on active noise cancelling, right? Isn't that just mediating the reality? Because we can actively cut off some things that are coming from our environment. That's mediated reality. And there are other examples out there, like prototypes, that you can plug some earplugs to your ears and just, I don't know, enhance treble or bass of your environment, or just focus microphones on a conversation with a person you're having a conversation with in a crowded and loud environment, for example. Or you can imagine this case, for example. You can put the headset on with some kind of depth sensors, and the person who is visually impaired or blind, when she or he would be walking with this kind of device on her head, the device would detect where the obstacles are and at what height the obstacle is in. And that person would have some kind of sensors on her body, some kind of small vibrating devices. And depending on where the obstacle is, that device would vibrate on this, on the particular part of her body. Meaning that the obstacle is on this height and that person could be fully aware where the obstacles are. Or, for example, blind person could also have this kind of headset or something like that that could recognize faces, and that device would know if the person is approaching us or if the person is looking at us, etc. So there are many possibilities that we can augment our bodies, and we might eventually end up being like Adam Jensen. Who knows what game that is? Deus Ex. Correct. But as the whole industry basically in the mainstream is focused on enhancing our visual side of environment, I'm going to focus here on those devices that are enhancing our vision. And that's probably because those are the best well-known. And with those devices, you can actually start doing something. You can buy them, sell products based on them. But, well, why is that? I mean, why does it move so slowly? Because, well, I've just told you that we could enhance every our sense. But even if we limit ourselves to enhancing our vision, it still takes like lots of work to develop properly designed headset that could that would enhance our vision in a pretty good way. Meaning that the companies that are doing those headsets, they have to focus on like display technology, cameras, positioning, tracking, optics, image processing, like battery life, ergonomics, AI. So those are really complex pieces of hardware, and that's why it's not that obvious and easy to create like fully, the device that could fully augment our reality in all senses. So why, in my opinion, it all went kind of silent? I mean, why many of us aren't or weren't aware what's going on in the augmented reality market? I think that it's more or less because of the Google Glasses. You might probably all remember Google Glasses, right? Around like 2011, 2012, right? Who remembers that? Probably everyone, because the hype was real back then. Google was trying to introduce AR glasses that were meant to be consumer targeted. Like people, like in the instant, people basically extrapolated possible usages of this kind of technology. I mean, we all thought that, well, our lives would gonna change, right? All those possible cases that we might solve with this kind of glasses. But in reality, when they released that, it occurred that it was kind of a utter failure, basically, right? The society wasn't ready for this kind of experiences. The technology wasn't there, so it kind of dropped, and everyone, I guess everyone kind of put this AR thing to a category of, okay, this is some kind of sci-fi that maybe someday in the future will come true, but we're not there yet. And everyone kind of forgot about that. I mean, until Pokemon Go, probably. That's when we got to know AR again, right? But luckily, many companies, like Google, for example, they understood, they took lesson from it, that the consumers aren't ready, but the businesses, enterprises, they're willing to trade like ergonomics, or they might be able to pay a little bit more for some kind of hardware or solution that could bring them performance gains, or workforce could work better. So there were some companies that actually started investing in it. And Google Glasses was embraced by several big companies, and Google followed with that. And I don't know if you know, but there is actually a second version of Google Glasses. You know that? How many people know that? It's not, yeah, it's only several people. So there was a second iteration of Google Glasses, but instead of being named Explorer Edition, like a consumer version, it's named Enterprise Edition for a reason, because they targeted it, with the second iteration, they targeted it to enterprises, right? And this is where it found its place. And that's why all the consumers kind of didn't, they couldn't see it, right? Because it kind of started living in a separate world of enterprises. And it's actually easy to realize what are the benefits of augmented reality. I mean, even ancient Greeks, they did know that learning with spatially oriented objects enhances our learning capabilities, right? So having, I mean, in the near future, we probably will all be experts, because we will all have like instant access to information right in front of our eyes, and we could enhance our senses in any possible way, right? I mean, what want to say here? And also, there are dangers, right? Like we also Black Mirror, of course. What could be bad usages of augmented reality? Like it was White Christmas episode, I think, right? Am I right? It was where we could erase someone from our vision. So when we erased someone from our life, whenever we saw that person in our life, that person would become blurred in our vision, and we couldn't hear that person. So the other reason for thinking that it's a right moment maybe to think seriously about augmented reality might be the thing that it's not one startup out there in the world or one big company that invests in that. It's that all the big players basically invest large amounts of money to this technology. So given Facebook, for example, they have, I mean, that's silly, but they have these funny filters out there, right? We can enhance our faces with all those funny glasses and hats and stuff, but it's there. I mean, it works pretty good. Everyone has it in its phone. And they announced some time ago that they're working on some kind of AR glasses as well. Apple, that's a big thing, because in 2017, they announced ARKit. And when they were announcing it, they told that they have the largest AR platform in the world right now, because when they released it in in some iOS, I don't remember the exact number, but it was targeted from iPhone 6s, I guess, and up. They had like millions of AR-enabled devices out there in the world where developers could start developing apps for. And this is actually where AR was started being targeted to consumers, because like everyone, I mean, many people could have an AR-enabled device. Google, a part of Google Glasses, they also released AR Core, which is basically the same as AR Kit, but for Android. They released it in 2018. And Microsoft with their HoloLenses, I mean, the whole story started with Kinect, actually, in 2010. But with HoloLenses, they entered this AR market. And there are lots of other companies, like Huawei, at the end of the previous year, they announced that they're targeting, like, they will have AR glasses in like 2 years or something like that. So even if you check the internet, and even if you Google for augmented reality hardware vendors, you could easily find around 100 companies that are actually right now delivering some kind of AR experiences in terms of the hardware. I mean, from very specific healthcare targeted devices to consumer products, which are also very specific, like for bikers, Garmin Insight, for example, which is a clip-on for your regular glasses that could display you GPS coordinates, for example, or the track information, to enterprise ones like HoloLenses. So the thing is that we as developers, we are going to, or we are taking a huge part in this whole new area, I would say. I mean, that's us, that we are going to create all this software that will have to be developed, right? And this is the time, in my opinion, to jump on it, or to start like reading about it or experimenting it, even without having all those devices. And to give you an example from my experience, for example, is I remember working on the transition from like desktop apps to web apps when Web 2.0 happened, right? Remember this time when, like, in enterprises we're moving stuff to like internal websites, etc., right? And then iPhone happened in 2009 or something around that. And then some businesses were like, okay, maybe we'll move from websites to mobile apps because, well, that's more handy, right? But I do remember all those discussions with the business people, because there were like problems like, will I have to buy like 200 iPhones for my workers then? That's going to cost lots of money, right? And I remember business people like wondering, okay, maybe it's not worth it, maybe it's not the right time to invest in it. And I do see the very same pattern right now. That, okay, this technology is cool, like the whole AR thing. That's going to enhance many things, many processes, and our workforce will probably work in a better way. But, well, will I have to buy all those headsets? That's going to cost money. Can you imagine right now any people doing business without mobile apps, or like enhancing our everyday work life without mobile apps, like even mobile Outlook, right? I mean, that's going to happen, and that's the right moment to start thinking about it, in my opinion. So let's go for a brief history of augmented reality. This is Dennis Gabor, actually, the inventor of holograms. So given we have a timeline, everything started with Pepper Ghost in 19th century, actually, 1862. So this fancy technology was being used in theaters, where basically a real actor was on the stage and the other actor was under the stage, and there was a big piece of glass, and the actor under the stage was lighted up with the big light, and then with this all complicated system of glasses, the actor's ghost was appearing on the stage. And ta-da, we had augmented reality experience 150 years ago. Then Second World War, and the Havilland Mosquito. They were the Havilland company. They were experimenting with displaying radar information in front of the pilot's eyes so that they can more effectively drop bombs, probably. Then 1950, teleprompter was developed by, how the guy was called, Hubert Schlafly. You all know what teleprompter is. That's basically AR as well. And then 61, Philco's headsight. This is not maybe a true AR device, but what they did great there was head tracking with all those complicated magnet systems so that they did know how the head is moving, right? Rotating and moving in space. Then 63, Bell Company that is doing helicopters, right? They started enhancing vision of pilots with IR cameras being mounted on the bottom of helicopters, and the stream was displayed to pilots so that they can land more effectively at night. In 67, Tom Furness, who is the guy known as the father of AR, I do recommend watching his videos on YouTube if you're interested in the AR and VR. He started working for US Air Force in 67, and he worked on the very first helmets for jet fighter pilots with augmented reality. And he was tasked with the problem to solve, how to fit, because I mean the jet fighter cockpit is kind of a limited thing, and you had to put lots of different displays there, right? So when they were running out of space in cockpits of jet fighters, they started thinking about maybe we can mount something on the pilot's head and just display there. And in 68, Ivan Sutherland created kind of very first proper AR headsets, so that it was a headset with tracking system and see-through displays, so that the person using it could actually see a 3D object in front of him in space. You will see in a while. That's a cube wireframe. Well, it's not maybe very fancy, but it was like 50 years ago. It's good enough, I think. Then Steve Mann, 1980, he created his first prototype of iTap. This is kind of a very simple idea. It's a camera in front of your eye and then a display on the other side, so that whatever the camera sees was being displayed on the screen, and then you could, with your computer, you could add up some digital content in front of you. Then Sony released Glastron, which was a consumer device. I don't know if anyone used it, but it was a real thing apparently. It was 1996. Then the Turing machine in 97, very bulky thing, but it was a AR device that had GPS, Wi-Fi, headset, and iPad, and you could like navigate your real environment with this very bulky AR device. And 98, this famous colorful line that we can see in all games, sport games right now on television, was drawn for the very first time. That was 1998. 1999, AR Toolkit was released for the very first time, and that's like the most well-known toolkit for creating AR experiences. AR Quake 2000, year 2000, and that was a real thing. I mean, it wasn't a like real game that you can just buy, but it was kind of a prototype that happened 18 years ago. So they created a Quake 1 port for AR glasses. I mean, they weren't just glasses, it was a whole backpack and gun and glasses, but you could shoot your enemies on your backyard with that. And that was 18 years ago. And then in 2004, very first mobile AR applications started appearing. We might all know those apps where we had some kind of marker, and whenever we point at that marker, something popped out. Then 2009, Lego started investing in it. where they built the whole stationary AR system which whenever you approached it with the box of Lego set, the 3D object popped out on the screen and you could see the whole set done. Right now, Lego has the very same thing, but it's in a paper version of their catalogs. Have you seen it? That you can have this paper version, and whenever you look at it through Lego app on your phone, the built-up set pops out from the book, which is a pretty cool thing. 2009, Vuforia was released, which is yet another toolkit well-known for creating AR experiences. 2010, Project Bariber was started, which is basically what Hololenses were. So that's a long time ago. That's pretty much the same time around when Kinect happened. Then 2011, Magic Leap got its very first big funding. This is one of the newest headsets that was released in October last year. I'm gonna have one more slide about it a little bit later. And Epson has created their own prototypes in 2011, and also Google. And that was pretty much it. I mean, that was that's the whole story up until some time ago. I'm going to continue later. So, given what we saw, all those headsets and systems, etc., we can now put some labels on them. We can categorize all those devices. And, well, obviously, we can divide them to wearables and non-wearables, and then wearables could be headsets, contacts, and helmets. So helmets being whatever you put on your head and covers most of your head and have some kind of a display in front of your eyes. Contacts, well, something that you put into your eye. There's nothing out there available in terms of contacts, but Samsung, I think at the end of last year, they announced they're working on some kind of smart contact lenses. Well, we will see how it will unfold. Then headsets. It's like HoloLenses or any add-ons that I mentioned, for example, like Garmin Insight. So add-on is whatever you can clip to your current glasses or integrated like Google Glasses or HoloLens. And non-wearables are divided to mobile, stationary, and HUD. Mobile is whatever you have on your mobile phone or tablet. Then stationary is what we've seen with Lego thing. And HUDs are heads-up displays. And these are further divided to factory and retrofitted. Factory are all those mounted by factories, like in jet fighters. And retrofit is whatever you can just buy, for example, the HUD for your car and put in front of your, next to your windshield and have some extra information in front of you. And then as we progressed in augmented reality world, it was around 2008, I think, 9 maybe, when we got all those better phones. So-called first wave of augmented reality experiences happened. So that most of them experiences were based on some kind of QR codes or markers, so that whenever you point the camera at the marker, the system could identify that marker and put some kind of a coordinate system right where the marker was, and we could render some stuff within those coordinate systems. And whenever we were moving the markers, those coordinate systems were aligned with the movements, and our objects were being moved with them. Pretty simple, right? And it had its purposes. It's being used up until now, actually. And I've seen some cool educational or training videos done with that. I've seen very cool animation of, it was at the conference in 2010, ORDEF in Sweden. The guy from NASA was showing the whole Apollo 11 mission with only some kind of tiles like that. So he had the whole Saturn V rocket divided into components, and every component has its own tile attached. And he was just playing with those tiles in front of the camera, and the whole mission and the rocket and the lander and the command module was being rendered there. It was pretty impressive. It was 2010. And then a second wave of AR experiences happened, and this is where we are right now. And this is basically all about the context. I mean, all those most fancy AR glasses or devices right now, they can be fully or maybe, I mean, more aware about the environment where they're being used in. Meaning that, for example, HoloLenses or Magic Leap, or even iPhones or Androids, they can detect where the floor is. They can detect if they have been in this place before or not. They can scan the environment. We can detect objects. We can estimate what kind of light is in the space we are in. So that we can get rid of, for example, markers, because we can place stuff, for example, here on the floor, and when we are back here, this thing that we placed here is still going to be here at this very exact same place, because our devices got the context awareness. And also, all those new devices are all about collaboration. Before that, the only way to share the AR experience with anyone else would be that other person standing next to us and peeking through our shoulder and looking at what we're seeing. But right now, we can have our own device and having our own experience, and other players or users can jump in with their own devices there. And this is a picture from WWDC last year when Apple introduced ARKit second version, when they unlocked the collaboration feature so that you can do all those multiplayer scenarios. And you can start playing some game and have another gamer joining you in the very same game, right? And you can even have some spectators looking at how you are playing with this imaginary game happening on this empty table. And yeah, all those HoloLens or AR Core for Android, they all have this feature right now. And to be honest, I'm in the middle of one project for one client and the other one for the other. And number one feature in both those projects was collaboration feature. Like, we need to be sure, like, more than one person can use this application at the same time, meaning that this is, for example, a training application, and you're learning how to use this piece of equipment, and we have to be able to allow some other people join this session so that we can have 5 people using HoloLenses looking at the very same piece of equipment and learn at the same time, for example. And also, very important thing that is happening right now, and kind of scary, is that there are many startups out there that are trying to map the whole world for AR. Meaning they try to build the big point cloud of the whole world so that AR devices would have access to it. And for example, with one app that you would create, you would be able to place something right in front of the Big Ben, for example. And whenever someone else would use that app in front of Big Ben, he would be able to see what you placed there, which is kind of funny and scary, as I said. But yeah, there are companies that do think this is the big thing, and it might have its own usages. So let's go through most well-known experiences or hardware, pieces of hardware, and the ones that you can actually start working on right now, and the ones that are actually in demand right now, so that it's fairly easy to get some projects going on with those technologies. So starting with Microsoft HoloLens, it's the oldest one. It was released in 2016. It was announced in 2015. Anyone haven't heard about HoloLens? Yeah. Everyone knows one person, right? Okay, I do have a headset with me, so if any one of you would like to try or would like to play for a while with it, just talk to me after the session. So HoloLenses, this is a computer on its own. You put it on your head. You have see-through displays. You can scan an environment. You have cameras. You have depth sensor. You use gestures to issue commands to your applications. It runs on Windows 10. And you can render basically 3D stuff and place it in front of you and around and interact with it. And you can have collaborative sessions with it. It's from Microsoft, which has its advantages, meaning that when you're trying to sell it to some other enterprise, and as I said, this is my experience and my opinion, if the enterprise has already Microsoft products, it's kind of easier to sell Microsoft product to them than some kind of glasses from a random startup, right? Because there is more trust in it. And as I said, that might be other case, but it works as I've seen it. The bad news here are that you can't buy a dev kit anymore. I mean, they run out of stock. And there won't be any when it comes to HoloLens 1, for sure, because they stopped producing chipsets for HoloLenses like 1 year ago. So whatever they had stocked, they sold out, and you can't buy any dev kit right now. At least I don't know how to do it. I mean, you can on eBay, used one, for $2,000. But the dev kit was $3,000, and Enterprise Edition, like full edition, was $5,000, and you can still buy the Enterprise ones, I think. So everyone is waiting for the second version of it, and the most recent rumors are that probably there is a press event in Barcelona at the end of February this year, and as Alex Kipman, as the main guy behind HoloLenses, is going to be there, it's very likely that they're going to tell something about HoloLens 2, but this is whole rumors and we don't know that. But expectations are that this year is going to be a year of like the next of HoloLenses. And also, a part of all the enterprise solutions, you can create fun solutions as well, like this Portal game, for example, for HoloLenses. There's actually a GitHub code for it. You can check it out. Then, AR Kit. First released in 2017, then in second version in 2018. This is a toolkit for iPhones, for iOS-enabled devices. And, well, by just having access to one camera or two cameras in the newest iPhones, well, you can create all sorts of AR experiences as well. Like you can detect floors, walls, etc. You can place content near you. You can estimate light. You can have shared experiences as well. And you can target consumers because, well, it's more likely that people around the world, like regular kids or regular people, will have access to iPhone than HoloLenses, surely. And, well, yeah, you can just place things around. And, well, AR Core, that's pretty much the same as AR Kit. I mean, I'm not going to go here into details. That's a toolkit, a library for Android devices with which you can create AR experiences for Android devices. And they come up with an addition with a library for iOS devices so that you can create shared cross-platform experiences so that you can have users with Androids and iPhones playing together with one AR game or app. And then magically, they started building the hype like 7 or 8 years ago. And this is a startup, so they were trying to get funding and more and more. And they finally released it in October 2018. And, well, this is the device that is more or less like HoloLenses. It has its advantages and disadvantages. In some ways, it's better than HoloLenses. In some things are done in a worse way. But basically, it's the headset. You put it on your head. This is a, well, computer on its own, but the computing unit is here. So you clip it on somewhere so that the headset is not that bulky and heavy. And it has a slightly larger field of view. And as it has, as the device is kind of, it's not a big glass in front of you, but it's the plastic around the glasses, it feels like you look through the toilet paper rolls, like your vision is kind of limited. And, well, you have more gestures than in HoloLenses available, and you have the 6 degrees of freedom controller as well. And they're slightly cheaper because you can get dev kit for like $2,300 dollars. And I think they are still available only in US. But it's not a big deal to get them to Europe, I think. And as an interesting thing, this is not a real product. I mean, this is something you can build yourself. This is something that Leap Motion company released. And Leap Motion, I don't know if you know the company. Those are the guys that released this small block that you connected to your computer, and this block can detect your finger movements, and you can program it. They released a reference build of AR headset, and you can download all the instructions, and you can 3D print this headset and program it on your own. And I'm showing it because, there are pretty cool usages. They released several videos of what kind of things you can do with that. And this is pretty cool. This looks like, I don't know, Iron Man stuff or something like that. They done it right, I think. Just imagine how we will be able to cheat on any exam, right, in the future. Like, here's my history cheat sheet. And, well, I'm not going to show you all the videos. Just Google for Project North Star. That's the name of it. And they have plenty of those videos. It's really, really cool. And, well, so basically with those 4 devices that I've shown you just a second ago, and some more, because there was CES, like this month, right? So we still have January. Yeah, there were some new announcements, but I still didn't have time to go properly through them. But anyway, with whatever we have right now on the market, there is a demand in basically every single industry out there. Like, seriously, I've been talking to like real estate, to healthcare, to education, to manufacturing companies. I haven't talked with military though, but I was talking with border control people about trainings in AR. So the possibilities are endless. Demand is out there. The only thing, in my opinion, which is the most important right now, is to build the awareness. Because, well, I've seen that the awareness is pretty low, even in the developers world, which are very tech-savvy people. So how business people will get to know about it? I mean, they have no idea what's going on out there. They have no idea what kind of devices we have out there. And that's us, that we have to go there and basically show them what's possible and sell it, right? Because, I mean, if we will wait until they will get to know about it, that's going to take lots of time. And the time is now, in my opinion. So this is a huge, huge opportunity for us to do fun stuff with cool hardware and just solve some problems out there, or just write yet another Pokemon Go. So in the near future, we probably will have some kind of tricoders, like in Star Trek, right? Not as fancy as this one, but probably something that we'll wear on our hand. And, well, let all the vendors and inventors work on the new technologies, like Steve Mann, this is the guy behind the Meta headset. That's not that headset, that's some kind of visionary thing. And we as developers, let's embrace whatever we have right now and give feedback to the companies because, well, they are listening, of course. This is all new stuff. And as I said, we can even start without having those devices like Magic Leap or Hololens because there are lots of, I mean, you can start developing and learning without having a device, or you can start doing stuff for your mobile phones. And if you are interested in getting more information on what's going on in that industry, in that field, like augmented reality or virtual reality, I do recommend all those 3 books, Augmented Human, The Fourth Transformation, and Augmented Reality. The Augmented Human is more about, like, in general, how we will augment as humans and become better humans, like Adam Jensen from Deus Ex. And the other source of good information about about augmented reality. Oh, how would I display that? That's better. Is Tom Emmerich on Medium. He does those AR roundups every month, and those are pretty good summaries of what happened in the AR world during a particular month. That's pretty cool. I do recommend the 2019 January because that includes all the CES 2019 releases and announcements. So those are the things to follow, in my opinion. And, well, that's pretty much it. That's where we are. That's where we're headed. If you have any more questions, I'm happy to answer. If you want to try Hololens, I'm also happy to give you to play. And, well, that's it. Thank you very much.